Before you question the title of this video, you probably need to take a step back and realize what a character represents, and my frustrating attempts to make more unique titles for videos these days, which isn't one of them, sadly. But how you look back upon an idea or an attitude where you understand perfectly what good this is talking about in the quest of finding right and wrong in the balance of villains and heroes. It is just the way a story communicates these emotions effectively to you and how you feel about a person that makes you love to love one or love to hate some, or vice versa if you think about the other sides of things too, since reality does show that Gaston is in fact one of Disney's best villains ever made, always at the top of lists including my own, where I really think he served a fantastic role in Beauty and the Beast to contrast the real hearts of where beauty lies, both inside and out, and why he was way worse than what the Beast had become over time. And when you look at his character regarding his personality, you can really see how terrible of a person he truly is, that he is pathetic because he represents the lowest that a person can go without any powers to them. Because when you think about most Disney villains, they usually use a bit of magic or sorcery or tech to their advantage to commit evil acts. But when you look at the most human villains that they've done, who use none of that, you notice they tend to be the darkest of all. Thinking in terms of characters like Frollo, who's my favorite and the greatest Disney villain to date because of the way he thinks about the world. A real evil inside the hearts of humanity, where no matter how much beauty we can display, we can also become our own worst enemy and most destructive ones in the entire universe. And Gaston is no exception to this, despite his shallow, somewhat goofy exterior, who thinks so highly about himself. One who demonstrates those who go far with their own opinions, having a compulsive grip upon a group of people while destined to be after our heroine's heart without having one himself. He is a hunter chasing after a trophy, where instead of him being the human we think he is on the surface, he really is the monster that the Beast actually portrays. The tale of two men who we constantly question having a heart or not, which is funny to think about both Trousdale and Wise directing this film and then later doing Hunchback right after, which I just mentioned with Frollo, to compare strictly human Gaston to act as the opposite to others like Quasimodo, who is the Beast by his outside appearance, initially shunned by humanity for looking outward, judging what was not really there. This is something I mentioned back at the start of the film previously with how we came to know the Beast, an arrogant young prince who lived high above the castle and rejected those beneath him as ugly, how his heart was just cold and hardened to a degree that already made him a monster, so the enchantress decided to curse him to what he truly was at the time and all of those who lived within his walls, even though they didn't deserve it at all. That the mission was, until he learned to love another, to really have a heart, he would stay like this forever and ever, eternally wasting alone as a feral animal whom no living creature would want to be in contact with. The importance of mentioning Beast at this moment in time for Gaston is to show someone of a similar vein, someone who can't love another but his own self with his own inflated ego. And like the Beast being the prince and lord of his castle, Gaston is held in high regard within the entire town, being very popular with the ladies and well respected by most of the men, except of course for Belle, which, being introduced as a hunter and all, he does set his sights on his greatest prize imaginable, which of course is the beauty herself, considered to be the most beautiful in all of the entire town and clearly different from everyone in her own world of books, where at first when we learn about everything else, he just seems like a normal bulky dude who's a bit boorish in his attitude, if you catch my drift for the words I'm trying to explain, until we see later on that he has much more darker layers to his own personality the deeper you dive into the story, much more to exterior of a goofy guy who just seemingly isn't a true villain at all, where you immediately notice this terrifying shift at the first glance with Belle, one that seems like a guy way out of her league to even be talking with her, but then turning into a sexist dumbass who needs picture books to even properly read any of them at all, berating Belle or women in general who dare to get ideas in their heads or be free thinkers, unlike the bimbettes who only see Gaston as the real superficial things to actually look for in life. That this picture alone, by the way he treats women, display a terrifying grip he has on the town for the feat alone he displays indulging in his impulsive narcissistic attitude. Things that go far where a man can do no wrong without level-headed individuals to surround themselves when cultures shelter towards just one single viewpoint, allowing them to insult others who dive in their own passions that may or may not work to their liking, like Maurice. Intimidation is the key to his character to get what he wants, where he never stops pursuing his greater goal and having Belle fulfill his own needs. One where he wants to live a life that he hunts and then carry a legacy of having up to 7 strapping boys. No girls allowed because that would just be too weak-minded for his own own taste. I mean, it's not mentioned at all by him, but you kind of get that picture of what he really wants in his own life, that he cares more about men than he does about women at all, where you see a lot of his traits alone by just the way he speaks and presents himself, demonstrates somebody who lives on the far end of the spectrum well above others except themselves to even be considered human at that point, where he is just an arrogant, selfish monster, where having others think for their own good is just a dangerous thought to him that stops them from gaining complete control over a group of people. His idiotic nature is made up for with his intimidating, cunning attitude and persistent nature that never quits. Sure, you might say that everyone else might easily fit his image perfectly for what he wants to dream in his own life with Belle, but how he doesn't want that because he is a hunter. He's after something that goes above the grain, a predator who never quits at the main prize that is always outside of their own life. In his own way, he is like our main character, wanting more than life than what the town provides in Belle's point of view, but more twisted to fit a villainous version. This is perfectly shown throughout the song, obviously titled Gaston, to describe what people think about him and what he can do that provides a typical boorish individual who you wouldn't really describe yet as a villain in all the senses that you know of, but affirming to his skills that makes him a valid threat, doubling back to pursue his own hopes. The song is really a true love about himself, his skills with eggs or whatever he says that makes him very special and a force to be reckoned with, as much as the beast himself that we've come to know, since most of this film is to focus on him and Belle's adventures so that he learns to love and the difference in people's own personalities. And when you switch back and forth between two characters, you see some of their similarities holding people back for different reasons, while of course still having the same pursuit of love for that single character, for one to regain their humanity while the other one slowly degrades their sanity. Beast is the man who is filled with many regrets in his own life, living with this monstrous exterior while trying to learn what love and compassion is, where at times he had felt like he almost given up hope, with sadness in his life for never being able to experience, which is something Gaston almost did in an earlier version of the film, where even after he tried to kill the beast, he would have actually killed himself since Belle would never love a monster like him, but only pursued her constantly since it was the only thing to give him meaning to his own selfish tendencies of life in a screwed up way that his mind worked itself out. Like, you see the evil lengths he's willing to work this out by using Maurice's deranged delusions to his advantage to try to get Belle out and back to save him, get a plan to help marry her by forcing to turn her father back into an asylum with his crazy ideas after the work she did to trade places so that he may live, to put him back in prison after her own hard work so that she can be forced in the position to marry him. He may lack intelligence in most of the basic ways like reading books or knowing longer words, but he still is smart enough to manipulate situations to his advantage if it is deemed fit. Like, even after that plan fails, because Belle knows the truth, he still manages to grab on another actual idea like the beast himself through the mirror, knowing that this is where Belle's heart truly lies and what must be done. That if she can love a beast and if Belle could not love him, then nobody else can. He resorts to his brutal violence that he's known for, being a hunter, rallying everyone to the opinion that we must kill the beast and save the town because he deserves such a beauty as her. And through this mob mentality that still allows his dangerously evil grip on the townsfolk, confirms what Belle has figured out the most, rightfully assuming that he had become the real monster. That through his pathetic nature of a selfish, greedy brat, he becomes a true villain bent on nothing but destruction, because you could see nothing here but people bent to his own will to attack a bunch of innocent people turned into pots and pans and other appliances before they try to give them the fright of their lives, while Gaston tries to aim for his biggest prize yet in life, being the beast, to finally match two men who have gone too far in their lives and lost too much in that own meeting. One bent on consumable rage, while the other sympathetic sadness with no will left to live. I call this fight an excellent reflection during the first part because it represents both sides of a person in the exterior or interior part that we have constantly talked about in this entire video. Beast throughout his own journey had learned to know that there was people who actually cared for him and loved him as he was trying to find that out himself, while Gaston had discovered people who feared him and hated him what he had become and can only hope to bury that part forever since it rejected that side with nothing left to be done, nothing left to lose since he has everything he wants. But then when Belle re-enters the picture, it reignites that passion Beast has to fight for something that could save his life, while reversing the picture and cowering fear of Gaston, who cannot defeat such an enemy that was motivated by real true love. And of course, even though you saw him lock up Maurice and Belle earlier, he still clearly loves Belle often in his own manufactured selfish type of love, claiming her as his only just to goad him out, but also failing when Beast grabs him above the castle castle where he could surely fall, showcasing his true patheticness as a person who begs for mercy compared to the image he had cultivated throughout the film. That this showed who he truly was on the inside, as a coward to the extreme who only sought after others to fulfill his own life's purpose before he finally begs to agree to the beast's demands so he can live, using the backstabbing technique as the only way to get any sort of advantage, which also happens to be his greatest downfall in the literal and metaphorical senses of the word. And one of the things you appreciate about this is the fact that his eyes get painted with skulls as he falls down, affirming that he did indeed not survive and died as a monster who tried to consume everything in his path but ended up being himself at that very end, while Beast instead finally gets saved for sacrificing himself in the name of selfless, compassionate love that humans need in their lives. The reveal of this changed heart that allowed him to become human again rather than wasting his days suffering as a beast. Of course, Gaston remained human throughout this entire film, but that was the true point of his character. That curse or no curse, some people can just take what they have too far into something monstrous and evil above all levels, even in the most simplest and stupidest of ways. The image of a man who cares not about others but his own selfish fulfillment of their own image and their ability to do what they wish in their life, for better or worse, with a lack of regard over the world around them. It is a level of patheticness that most humans should never strive for to see or be at all that alienates what passions we were destined for in our own creation. Where we can see the best villains that can be made can just simply come from people being who they are truly, and up to us to discover if we should or shouldn't follow such examples. And I'm all done. Goodbye.